Welcome to Relationship Talk, the podcast where we have real conversations about love, well-being, dating, and relationships. In today's episode, I had a magnetic conversation with Sanaiyah Gurnamal, who is a love alchemist known for her magic touch in transforming past experiences, especially the not so shiny ones, into pure relationship gold. As a relationship reinvention coach, she guides individuals through deep inner transformation, helping them embrace self love, break free from toxic relationship patterns, and attract the love they deserve, creating a life powered by love. You can find out more about Sanaiyah's golden work, including her Project Loving Myself podcast, in the show notes. During the conversation, Sanaiyah shares what love blocks are. There are 5 of them, and you'll find out how they might be quietly sabotaging your relationships. Alongside, could you be the common thread when it comes to your relationship struggles? We explore the importance of taking accountability in love rather than blaming the other person. Sanaiyah also busts one of the biggest relationship myths that keep people stuck, and the power of attracting your energetic match, how self-love shapes who you draw into your life, and so much more. You are about to get the whole RLT, aka Relationship Talk, so you're going to want to watch the entire episode. I truly hope that you find this conversation as illuminating as I did. And remember to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell. I'm Teresha Young, your international wellness and relationship coach. Enjoy, take notes, and get ready to apply all key messages you take away today. Hello, Sanaiyah. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Teresha. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you very much for asking. Welcome to the show. I am very much looking forward to having a conversation with you today because we're going to be sharing some quote unquote hard truths, perhaps, maybe some things that people don't necessarily want to hear about taking accountability. However, we're going to explore it with love. So, for the audience tonight, I would love for you to share with us a bit more about who you are and what you do, and just introduce yourself in terms of the great work that you do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So, first of all, I am a relationship reinvention coach. I'm also a keynote speaker. And what I do is I work with women to help them to either attract their soulmate, reignite the spark of a relationship that is falling apart, or to embrace self love. And actually, the or to embrace self love should not be an or because it really is the core of everything I do. And the reason why this is my life's work, this is my mission, Teresha, is because I was on the other side of that. In my 20s, I struggled with very difficult relationships. I mean, my entire love life was this endless roller coaster going in loops, up and down, constantly just experiencing heartbreak and heartache and betrayal and really unhealthy relationships. And at one point, after just relationship after relationship with disappointment after disappointment, I almost gave up on love. And I thought that, this wasn't for me. And I was going to throw my entire self into my work. And the beautiful thing about that is I learned that I had to just learn to love myself first. And when I fell in love with myself, I started allowing people to love me too. And that's really where my journey took me. As I worked with women through coaching, through different kinds of mindset work, I realized that love is just as important to other women as it is to me. And because of my own experiences, because of perhaps what my special or unique gift is, I've been able to help other women attract their soulmates or, rekindle the love that they lost in their relationships. So this is something I'm very passionate about. It's my own journey, and it is something that makes me very happy to see other people in beautiful, loving relationships like my own.
Oh, absolutely. So, like when you were speaking there, so many people, including myself, will be able to relate to that journey. It's so relatable. And when you said it's like you had an aha moment in terms of, I have to learn to love myself, I have to love myself first. Was there some sort of information that came to you at that time and made you think, whoa, what is this?
Yeah. I love that you're asking that, Teresha, because you obviously understand that those kind of realizations often come with major, turning points, realizations, wake up calls, right? So, what happened with me is I was constantly dating emotionally unavailable men,
Mm,
and they wouldn't commit to me. And interestingly enough, they would date me. I thought they had these commitment issues. And then the next person they dated after me, they'd actually get very serious with them or they'd marry them. I was
mm,
like, wait a minute, what's going on here? How come in my relationship with them, they had commitment issues, but then they go off and marry the next person? What's going on here?
yeah.
And that's when I kind of realized that, wait a minute, maybe they're not the problem. I mean, if you look at my pattern and you look at all the people I've dated, I'm the common denominator. And if they're the ones that I keep blaming, perhaps, just perhaps, I should be looking at myself too. And that's when I realized that the problem wasn't them, it was me. I was the one with the commitment issue, not them, because I kept attracting the type of person that was, either a commitment phobe, they weren't available to me, it just never worked out, which actually was quite convenient because if I have a fear of commitment, then I'm actually getting exactly what I want, though I, thought it was them that was messing up my
Mm,
love life. So it was that moment where I recognized that I had to take personal accountability. I had to take responsibility for how I was showing up, for what I was accepting, for what I was tolerating, and maybe even attracting into my life.
yeah. Wow. So even you using that word attraction, there will be people listening to this thinking, me? I'm the problem? No, 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 it's them. And start blaming other people. So
Right.
for people listening to this thinking, well, is there an opportunity for me to actually start exploring if I am the common denominator? What would be the best first step that they could take in order to explore that?
Yes, absolutely. So the first thing that I have all my clients do is take a look at the patterns in their life and their love life in particular. I mean, if you could make a list, an inventory of sort of your relationships, is there something that keeps happening over and over again? Is there a certain behavior that comes up? Is there a certain emotion that you keep feeling? Or do you experience the same kind of outcome, result, or situation in your relationships? For example, I constantly have clients who've been cheated on, not once, but repeatedly in different relationships. And often we find out through a little bit of work that we do together, we figure out that they had a cheating parent. Either one or both parents betrayed the other, and that betrayal may not always look the same. It doesn't necessarily mean they had another woman or another man. It could be that they let them down or disappointed them in some very significant way. So, wherever there is betrayal or cheating in my clients' adult life, I almost always find some kind of experience of that in their childhood. And so, what's very interesting is when we start to look at our entire life, we look at the different milestones, the different, points in our journey, and we start connecting the dots. We see a pattern, we see a story, we see our love block, which is what I call the major, I would say, obstacles or the major things getting in your way of actually being in this healthy, loving, meaningful relationship with
Mm,
someone that you can actually spend your life with.
okay. So these love blocks that you are referring to, are there any common patterns or common things that you see in terms of
Yeah.
how they show up for people?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, over the past 10 years, I've worked with over 5,000 women. And I figured out that there are actually five very common hidden relationship patterns. They show up time and time again, and they're very specific. very specific. They have very specific origins or root causes. And also the way I approach them with my clients also has a very specific route to healing it or clearing it. And so these love blocks, and I'm going to tell you actually about each of these love blocks. The first one is the commitment phobe, the one that's really my story, right? So you constantly attract unavailable partners. You think they're the problem, but you're actually the one that's afraid of love. And that is likely because you have some associations with love that, come from other experiences, childhood, parents, best friends who were just brokenhearted or had really terrible experiences in their relationships. And so you form this belief subconsciously that love is actually something that might be painful, uncomfortable, something that you need to avoid and protect yourself from. So here you are blaming the other person when in fact the commitment phobe is you. So that's the first love block. And actually that one is very, very common.
Yeah.
The second love block, Teresha, is the people pleaser. This is where you change yourself to be what your partner wants you to be. And I'm sure someone out there is nodding their head because they can relate to that, right? You start dressing differently, you start behaving differently, you make your partner the center of your world. Your entire life revolves around them. And you start losing who you are and trying to please who they want you to be, or you try to become who they want you to be. You lose your sense of identity. You often start to focus on them and their life, neglecting your own. And they take you for granted as a result, right? Because you have almost no sense of your own life and identity.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with the people pleaser, they've often grown up being taught that they had to earn love, that they had to do certain things, be a certain way to be loved, usually by their parents. And so they grew up thinking that in order for them to get love from a partner, they had to please their partner. They had to seek the approval. They had to, make them the priority.
Yes.
Now, the third love block, Teresha, is the runaway bride. And I love this name because it's based on that Julia Roberts movie. I'm not sure if you have ever seen it, but she's right about to get married. She's going to the altar and then she runs away, right? Yeah. And that's typically the runaway bride love block, because every time you're about to take the next step, or you're getting closer, there's more vulnerability. You have to open up more, right? You actually start to distance yourself, or you sabotage the relationship. You want to run away. That's because somewhere you believe that your partner is just going to hurt you deeply. So love is painful. It's risky. It is something you need to protect yourself from. You tend to have difficulty with intimacy, with vulnerability. Like you don't want to get too close to someone. It's almost like you don't want them to see all of you, because they might not like it. Okay. Then we've got the fourth one, which is the caretaker. And the caretaker is someone who probably had to take care of either their siblings or their parents. Maybe their mother had a mental health condition. Maybe their parents were struggling for some reason, but they grew up having to take the responsibility of others on their shoulders. So they grew up taking care of other people, and that became their sense of identity, sense of worth. They don't know how to recognize their own needs. They're always prioritizing somebody else's needs. And as a result, there is almost a sense of guilt in prioritizing their own happiness. They can't do it. They feel guilty. They feel like they need to take care of somebody else first. They believe love is a sacrifice, and they constantly attract partners that they have to take care of. But when that partner doesn't need that extra attention and care anymore, they leave you. So that's what's happening to a caretaker. And often I've noticed with caretakers, they have aging parents that they feel they need to take care of, or they have some big responsibility they have to discharge. And because of that, they can't focus on their love life. They keep, creating reasons and excuses to hold themselves back to prioritize the other person. So that's the caretaker.
Ah,
And finally, the fifth block is the memory chaser. This is when you're still holding on to the past, like that one relationship was the one that got away, or like the ship has sailed, I lost that one chance. They're
yeah.
constantly replaying the old relationship, the ex, matching anyone in the present to the ex.
Mm,
And the crazy thing is, that relationship was probably not good anyway,
yeah.
but they kind of put that partner on a pedestal and they're constantly looking back instead of looking forward, stuck in the what if I did it differently? What if it had, worked out a different way? Or what if they come back? So they don't give new love a chance. They're constantly comparing the past and wanting to stay stuck there instead of moving forward. So those are the 5 relationship patterns. And what happens is when you carry this pattern, you replay it in your relationship.
Yes.
So if you recall my story, I thought the partner I was with had the commitment issue, and then they went and committed to somebody else, right? So in the relationship with me, they played into my commitment phobe issue. But in a relationship with someone else, it didn't play out because that other person didn't have that block. So we
Mm.
almost kind of program people around us to respond to our love blocks, and we act out of our love blocks. And so with these love blocks active, we are essentially getting in our own way of love.
Yeah. Such a detailed breakdown there. And I'm sure, certainly, I'm listening to you thinking, oh, if I was to fall into a category, what category that would be? Is so relatable, so, so relatable. And when you were talking there, Sanaiyah, I was thinking it all falls down to survival mode, doesn't it? Because when you think about fight, flight, freeze, fawn,
Yes.
that's kind of what it is. We're just putting ourselves into that survival mode. And that's not a position of thriving in any relationship whatsoever. If you feel like you have to survive and you are protecting yourself with this block, so to
Yes.
speak, in order to open yourself up to love. Now, let's say, because I think many people may really relate to the commitment phobe, so to speak, and blaming somebody else for not being committed. But if you take responsibility for yourself, what kind of behaviors would you be displaying to demonstrate that you are in fear of commitment? What do people tend to do?
To show that they are fearful of commitment or that they.
Yes, yes. So is it like lack of communication? Do they withdraw? Do they try to create some sort of separation? What does that actually look like so people can identify to say, oh, actually, I am a commitment phobe.
Yeah. So very interestingly enough, with a commitment phobe, it's masked because the behavior wouldn't be in you as much as it would be in somebody else.
Mm.
Your behavior would be blame and projection.
Uh-huh.
So whatever you're feeling is projected onto the partner. That's the game of the commitment phobe that they're playing. They've actually deluded themselves into thinking that the other person is the problem and the baggage is theirs, when in fact they don't want to look at their own baggage. They don't want to, they're hiding from it. So it's, and I love that you said the fight, flight, freeze, and
Yes.
fawn, because, and this is true of the commitment phobe as well, we play out those survival modes at different points depending on the love block. So with the commitment phobe, your love block plays out when the partner has either left you or you're really struggling with the relationship. And so it's like a lot of stress coming from the behavior of the partner.
Yeah.
So that's where you're playing it out. The one with the memory chaser, the love block plays out before you can even get into a relationship because you're stuck in the past,
Yes. Yes.
right? The runaway bride plays out right when you're getting to the next step or you're like almost at I do,
Yes.
right? You're about to seal the deal and then you run.
Yeah.
And then finally, the people pleaser is playing out all the time. They're constantly people pleasing.
Yeah.
And finally, the caretaker is kind of similar to the memory chaser, where you push off relationships. You don't even get there because the love block is playing out then. So it does definitely drive your behavior, but in different ways and at different points of the relationship journey.
Oh, so do you have a quiz that people can do to identify what their love blocks are?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that. So I do have a Love Blocks quiz. I'm sure you're going to drop the link in
I will do.
your description, but you can also go to sanaiyahgurnamal.com/love-blocks-quiz. And so I make you answer, I invite you to answer some questions. And what it does is it looks at your behavior, how you would react to certain situations in a relationship. And that essentially is describing your reactions, your responses, how you initiate relationships, how you respond and react to different challenges. And it gives you a pretty clear picture of what your love block is, because I've had so many people, Teresha, being like, oh my God, Sanaiyah, this spoke to me. Like, this is me. And so I found in my practice, in my experience, that they're pretty accurate. They're pretty spot on for the people who have taken the quiz.
Interesting. Can you have more than one love block? Could you be a people pleaser and a runaway
So
bride?
brilliant question, because we're never really one completely. We
Okay.
have a dominant one, Teresha, but then we have normally a second and maybe even a third.
Yeah.
But definitely there is like a top one or two that plays out more than the other ones. And that's the one you resonate with the most. That's the one that trips you up in your relationships. And that's the one that I would address,
Mm.
because all the other ones are just kind of like consequences, or they are, just offshoots of the main issue, the main problem.
Mm. Brilliant. So when you do the quiz and you identify what your core love block is there a next step in terms of, so your next step is to there. So there's like a process of that.
Yeah. So once you actually get your result, I do give you the very next step that you can take on your own to
Mhm.
start working on that particular love block. And it's something you can do. It is something that you can practice. It's something that you can, essentially weave into your life to
Yes.
start becoming more aware of your behaviors, your reactions, your choices. It does give you a sense of empowerment, understanding over your behavior, and the tools to perhaps start making different choices.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, when we started this conversation, the word that you used was attract, because we are in the realms of attracting our experiences, attracting people, situations into our life. And before we have in this conversation today, you mentioned that we are our energetic equivalent in love. So, for example, if you have low self-esteem issues, the person that you attract is likely to have low esteem, self-esteem issues too, but it might look a bit different. So, can you
It will
explain?
likely look quite
Yes,
different, but
yes,
the root of it will be very similar.
yeah,
You're both operating from that. Yeah. So, when you have an insecure partner, you usually have a partner who is going to almost feed the insecurity. And so they're almost responding to our insecurity. So that's one. So it could be a vibrational match, or
mm,
it could be almost like a compliment. So an insecure person will initially attract a secure person who will make them feel good.
mm,
But then, after the honeymoon phase and your real personality comes out, the partner who made the insecure person feel secure will start to change, and they'll start to be their real self, and they will feed the insecurity even more. So we're always attracting our vibrational match or our energetic equivalent. Now, that person who is now feeding your insecurity is at your very similar vibration, and they are insecure about something else, which is why they're feeding your insecurity.
okay,
Okay. Or another example would be you're someone who needs a lot of attention. And so in the beginning, you might attract a partner who's love bombing you, giving you so much attention and making you feel like, wow, this person just really loves me. Look at how much attention they're giving me. So you're like, okay, this is the person for me. You get into the relationship. And then again, over time, the same person who's giving you all that attention will withdraw the attention. And now you're actually worse off because you feel completely disappointed and betrayed by
yeah,
this partner who's no longer giving you that attention that you once needed. And the reason why you felt attracted to this person is now been affected or compromised. Now, the person who, who withdraws the attention is likely insecure in a different way in their life. Okay, so we tend to attract people at the same level of challenge or same level of, you could say, difficulty in their own life. And so this is why usually conflict is not one-sided. It's like two people almost, playing off each other, or you're both fueling the fire, and it's just, things can get kind of out of control with that.
Yeah. That's so interesting because people could be thinking, listening to this, saying, oh, okay, that's really interesting. So let's say I can identify that I do have low self-esteem issues, and my partner, even though it manifests very differently for them, could have it. I suppose it's only when it shows as a problem in the relationship that is something to address, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll have one partner constantly needing validation,
Yeah.
perhaps acceptance and approval from the other. But because the other person doesn't have the capacity to give it to himself, right? He's not going to be able to give it to you.
Mm.
And this is going to create a lot of stress and conflict because neither person is able to meet each other's emotional needs. Now, the easy solution is learn to meet your own emotional needs. But then your love block is playing out, right? It's playing up, and you can't do that because you don't know how to do that. Your childhood experiences have not allowed you to develop that skill of loving yourself, meeting your own emotional needs, keeping yourself safe, or, having the courage to face your challenges and overcome them. So we haven't had the skills that we often need to make our relationships a success.
Yeah. So that probably weaves us very naturally into the self-love part that you're talking about, because when we are doing this exploration work, it can be easy to just have regret, to beat ourselves up about our experiences and things that we've done. So what what exactly, in your words, what is self-love and how does that show up for people?
Yeah. So self-love is something I've thought about a lot, Teresha, over the work I've done and my own personal journey and the work I've done with my clients. And I've come to realize that self-love is your ability to recognize, to meet, and to respond to your emotional, physical, spiritual needs when you need it and in the way you need it. Not later, not tomorrow, not after you work on somebody else or focus on them. It's my ability to know what I need in this moment and to be able to give that to myself because I am a priority,
Yeah.
because I love myself, because I matter.
Yeah.
This is what people have a really tough time with because most people walk around feeling not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
They walk around feeling maybe unlovable, or that they have to do certain things or reach certain goals to be approved of, accepted, or loved, because that's how we were raised, right? We were raised that way. And so we never outgrew that program. We thought that's how we're supposed to be. We're supposed to love ourselves when we do this or if we do that. And the idea of just loving yourself for who you are without conditions, right? That's something that most people have difficulty doing.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, loving yourself is the key, right? If you can love yourself, you don't depend on anyone else to give you the love, and therefore you never get disappointed. You never feel obligated. You never feel like the other person is not giving you what you need. So you come into a relationship completely whole. You're in that relationship to bring the best of you into that relationship, not because you need something from them. Because the
Yes.
minute you need something from them and they don't give it to you, you create conflict, you create discomfort, you create dysfunction in the relationship, you create difficulty,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's the problem with most relationships is people aren't able to bring their full self, their complete self into the relationship. They're
Mm.
too busy, pointing the finger at what the other person is or is not giving them.
And for people listening to this, because that's so beautifully expressed there, Sanaya, for people listening to this, they may say, but I don't even know what self-love looks like because they may not even experience it. As if we're looking back to childhood, for example, and a lot of our conditioning, a lot of our modeling happens at a young age. So they might not even know what self-love looks like. What does loving myself actually look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember I took this flight once. I was flying from, I think it was either Manila or Dubai, and I was flying to the US.
Mm.
Okay. And it was a very, very long flight. And I remember, I think about 6 hours into the flight, I was doing some work on my laptop. I had a lot of work to do. And I remember that I had had a glass of wine and I started to get very sleepy. But my mind said, but I have to get this done. Okay. Whatever I was working on, I have to get it done. I can't sleep. I have to do this. And in that moment, I realized this is exactly what self love isn't. It's when my body is telling me I need rest, I'm tired, I need to sleep. But I say, oh, but I got to get this done
Yes.
because there's a deadline. Somebody else needs it. I need to prove I'm good at my job. Whatever the reasons are, I push aside what my inner voice is saying, what
Mm.
my body is asking of me.
Yes.
And I essentially ignore it or neglect it or
Yeah.
don't even hear it. And
Yeah.
I keep pushing and I keep pushing and I keep, doing all the things that don't honor what I need at any given moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Mm.
I'll go to sleep after another hour of work, or, I'll go to sleep, you know, after a couple of, we make all these excuses for why we can't be there for ourselves,
Yeah.
for why we put ourselves down, why we reject ourselves, why we criticize ourselves. So all of this, the inner critic,
Yes.
the imposter
Mm.
syndrome,
Yeah.
self-sabotaging, like
Yeah.
all of these different negative behaviors and patterns are all, actions we're taking that do not allow ourselves to really love who we are and accept ourselves, all of ourselves,
Yeah.
without the conditions. And this is unfortunately due to programming that we have grown up with. But it's our job to become aware, to realize we have the power to make different choices, to behave differently. So when I had that realization on the plane, even though I felt compelled, to do all this work that I needed to do, I said, you know what? I'm just going to listen. I'm going to honor what I need
Yeah.
right now. And I am going to take a nap.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
okay. But in that moment, I heard what I needed. I paid attention. I took action.
Hmm.
So many of us can't even hear what we need because we're so disconnected from what we truly want.
Hmm. Yeah. So relatable. And there were some words that you were saying there that were really jumping out at me. So when you are doing, you don't allow yourself to be. So
Exactly.
with self-love is about, from my experience as well, it's allowing ourselves to be present, to receive, just to let it all go and to just feel so grounded in the moment. Because when we are constantly doing, I must meet this deadline, I must do this work, that is actually putting pressure on ourselves, the stress. We understand that we are living in a society and a world where we have to do, of course, we have to do things, but not at the detriment of allowing ourselves to just be present as well and take care of ourselves.
Yeah. And we torture ourselves, Teresha,
Yeah.
with our regrets, with our mistakes,
Yes.
with our choices,
Hmm.
right? Our inability to meet either society or other people's expectations. We torture
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
right? And this is something that is so ingrained in our subconscious, we don't know how to turn it off. And the only way we turn it off is we reach for our phones or we find other ways to distract ourselves,
Yes.
whether that's alcohol, whether that's loud music, whether
Yeah.
that's some form of running away, right? And I've learned something that has really helped me in my own life, which is to make a point of finding pockets in my day
Mm.
of silence where I can hear my own thoughts. Because while you're looking at your phone, while you're having conversations with other people, while you're watching TV, while you're doing the million other things that you have to do in your life,
Mm.
there's no space to hear your thoughts. For
Yes.
that, you need silence. You need the pause.
Yeah.
You need quiet because you can't hear yourself among all the other things competing for your attention. And so what
Mm.
I do is, for example, if I am going from one place to another, I could listen to a podcast, I could listen to music, I could do a whole bunch of things, right? But instead, I'm going to say, wait, this is the pocket in my day to just process, to just be with my own thoughts, to let creativity come to me, inspiration come to me, to process anything that's bothering me, that has been maybe triggering me. It's that pocket that
Yes.
I need to truly connect with myself and to meet my needs, whatever that may look like in that
Yeah.
moment.
So do you schedule in those pockets? So do you have set times in the day when that happens?
You know what? I don't have it on my schedule or on my calendar, but I have certain times of the day that I know is my time. For example, before I go to bed at night. That is just a practice I do. I do some meditation and I process. I, kind of integrate what happened in the day. I do a check. Is there anything that is, unresolved, anything I need to work on? Another thing that I do is in the morning, I do a journaling practice and I also do my meditation out in the sunlight. So that's another great pocket for me to connect. And whenever I have to go from one place to another and I'm not driving,
Mhm.
then I take that time to just, be with myself.
Mm.
Um, and actually, there's another thing that I do. Um, so I love Pilates. That's my workout of choice. And I've had friends who are like, Sanaiyah, let's, I go to a certain studio and they're like, Sanaiyah, let's do the buddy Pilates where we do Pilates with each other. And I'm like, you know what? I love you. I really like spending time with you, but my workout time with my trainer, who doesn't talk to me except to show me the moves, is my time where I'm in my own mind. I'm in my own headspace. And I don't want to have conversation with anybody. I don't want to, chat and, be with my girlfriends. I just need to be by myself. And I usually schedule in my Pilates workouts around mid morning. So I've had time to work in the morning and then I take like a mid morning break. I do my workout then and I just kind of process and I just let everything settle into me before. It's like my break, but it has to be a break in my own head with myself. And I
Yeah.
could be in the noisiest Pilates studio and I will not be focusing on anything. I will be completely tuned out and just in my own zone. And that's where I just connect with myself and
Mm.
get what I need in that moment. Yeah. And that is something very sacred to me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sacred, and you are honoring your time. The words that were
Mhm.
jumping out at me there was just intentionality. Be intentional about the way that we choose to use our time, and also boundaries too. So the boundaries that we have with ourselves and then also with other people. Because of course, yes, you could chat with your girlfriends during Pilates, but equally, that when we pour into ourselves, our self-love, then our relationships, the quality of our relationships by default improve too. So you are actually doing your friendship a good deal there by actually looking into yourself first.
And Teresha, I have to add something. So the friend that asked me, her name's Chris, and she's someone, very, very, she's like my person.
Yeah.
And I don't get to see much of her because she has a new baby. We live in, a little bit further away from each other. And I remember when she said, Sanaiyah, let's just do Pilates together. We can hang out. I remember feeling a little torn because she's important to me. Right. And I didn't want to disappoint her. And I wanted to also tell her how important she is to me. right? Because we don't get to see each other that much, but I still chose myself. And I told her the truth. I really need the time. And I apologize. I said, you know what? I love you, babe. I
Mm.
really honor you, but I need this time for myself. And because she is the type of friend that understands that and honors me back,
Yes.
she was so supportive. And that is something that's really important too, is to surround yourself with people who get it,
Yeah.
right? Who are your cheerleaders as much as you are there for yourself, is to find other people who have the same values, who have
Mm.
the same intentionality, who know how to really respect, whether that's your time or your space, but also you.
Yeah, it's a really great opportunity for people to actually reflect upon the people in their lives right now, because our environment, the people in our lives, hugely impacts on the way that we actually conduct our lives, our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors. It's all interlinked. So this is a really great opportunity for people to actually take stock on who is in their lives. Who are the people who lift you up, who motivate you, who inspire you? Who are the people that you can turn to in moments of vulnerability as well? Because quote unquote, toxic relationships, so to speak, will actually influence the way that we think, the way that we perform. One thing I
I
wanted to
think
ask, oh, go ahead, yes.
I want to add, because what you said was so great. I just couldn't resist to add
Yeah,
something else. We don't have to have that many people in our life anymore, right? As you get older, you
yeah,
realize like there are people who are just draining your energy. They're not worth your time.
yeah,
There are people who value your time, who value you, and they add value to your life. Those are the people you want to keep around. Those are the people who inspire you, right?
yes,
And a lot of us, when we're younger, we have a lot of friends. We want to be popular. We want to have so many different people to hang out with. But as you get older, you realize that, you want the people who are really going to be there for you. You want the people who will love you without those conditions, without taking from you and not giving back, right? So reflecting can also help you almost edit, right, your circle and wonder, maybe take a look at whether you still want to keep certain people in your life.
mm. Quality over quantity. That's what
Quality.
they say, isn't it? And the quality of our relationship, particularly with ourselves, does impact on the quality of our life and our relationships with other people. Now, people listening to this, and you've been in the relationship industry for a very long time. You've got a wealth of experience with over 5,000 women, over the course of your experience. What are some of the, I guess, common myths that you find about relationships in this modern world that you are identifying at the moment?
Oh my God, great question. Because right away I can tell you one of the biggest ones is scarcity. There's never there's no good people out there.
Mm,
There's no good men out there. There's never enough. And it's not just something I see in relationships. I see that with time. I see that with money. I see that with opportunities. Most people are walking around thinking there isn't enough. Of course, it just mirrors the belief, the program that again a lot of people have, which is I am not enough. And so when you don't feel enough, then it feels like there's never enough opportunities. There's
yes.
never enough money. There's never enough time. It's like you're always chasing. You're not attracting because there isn't enough. So that's a really big one that I tend to see with people. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a that's a
that
really
is a
good one.
big one. Yeah. And the word chase, what we chase often runs away from us, right? So if you're chasing something rather than attracting, then you're chasing, 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 and it just gets further and further away from you. And again, what you're saying there is for people to actually take some responsibility, because if you are thinking an accountability, because if you're thinking there is not enough of something out there, but you bring it back to yourself and thinking maybe it's because I don't feel that I am enough. Woo, that's another that's another aha moment for somebody out there.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so interesting to recognize that we are just reflecting whatever lack we have inside of us out onto the world around us.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So, and I
entirely.
always say, right? I always say the most important relationship is the one with yourself.
Yeah.
And that relationship is what teaches other people how to love you, right? So you got to love yourself first. You got to work on yourself first. You got to fill your own cup. You have to, fill your own gaps, your own lacks, your own void. You got to come in whole and complete. And then there's plenty out there for you. And you're just going to, live your life attracting all the good stuff without even having to really make much effort. Because once again, you'd be reflecting the wholeness, the completeness, out into your world.
Yeah. So, in your experience, then, because if people are thinking there's not enough, and of course, we are in a world of dating apps right there, there's loads of dating apps out there. But even though there might be lots of opportunities, sometimes people aren't feeling that they are still connecting with somebody. So, is it an energetic attraction?
Oh, for sure. I tell my clients all the time, you could be doing a grocery run, dressed in your sweats,
Yeah.
hair all messy, not looking like your best, and run into the love of your life right there. And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Right. One of my clients was sitting out, in a park on New Year's Eve. She was by herself, and we had done, the work together before that. I think a couple of months before that, she and I had completed a program together where we worked on all these things that I am talking to you about. And so it was New Year's Eve. She's on her own, watching the fireworks. She lives in Australia, and a couple of feet away was this guy who was also alone, sitting in the same park, on the grass, watching the fireworks. They struck up a conversation, and that was it. They didn't even live in the same city.
Wow.
Okay. And that was the beginning of their journey together. And they were just beautiful together. It was like, who would have ever thought that these two people from different places would come together in this way and feel just so right and so comfortable with each other? So it's a perfect example of when you do the work on your own, when you come into if you just in your own life,
Yeah.
walk around feeling complete and whole, and you're just sitting in a park somewhere. And before you know it, you've attracted this amazing person who's just right next to you, and you
Yeah.
didn't even do a thing. Right. So, this is something most of my clients tell me over and over again, that they don't even really need to do anything but the work. Of course, we've done the work, which is obviously deep, intense work. But after that, it's like they feel like, well, I don't really need anyone anymore.
Mm.
I don't really need to go looking, or I know it'll come when it comes. And it really does, in the most beautiful, unexpected of ways.
Yeah. It's becoming at peace with the process then, isn't it? Because when you become at peace with the process and just say, so there's people out there who might be on the dating apps, but yet you have not done the work. So if you haven't done the work on yourself, you're not necessarily going to attract the experience or the person. So it all comes back to you.
Absolutely. If you're in lack, you're going to see lack,
Yes.
right? If you feel not enough, there's going to be not enough outside of you.
Yeah.
So,
That's
yeah.
so good to know. So responsibility, accountability, self-love is self-responsibility. And when we do that work, there's so much beauty that can be attracted into our lives from doing the work.
Yeah.
Now, Sanaiyah, you've spoken about, dating somebody who was fearful of commitment, for example, went into another relationship. Have there been any more key learnings and lessons, so to speak, that you have attracted, that you have gleaned along your journey of relationships at all, past and present?
Yeah, so many, Teresha. And actually going to repeat something that I mentioned earlier, which is, the most important relationship is with yourself.
Yeah.
Whatever you want from somebody else, you need to learn to give it to yourself.
Mm.
So if you want someone to make you feel beautiful, you have to be able to make yourself feel beautiful. If you want someone to give you undivided attention, can
Yeah.
you give yourself your undivided attention? Right? If you want someone who buys you gifts and surprises you with little things, can you do that for yourself when there's something to celebrate?
Yeah.
Right? So everything you want from somebody else, everything you want from, your soulmate, your ideal partner, can you give it to yourself first? Because if you can, and you know how to receive that, then you will allow yourself to get it from somebody else too.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson and learning for people. Give it to yourself first. So, talking about love, then, I do like to ask my guests what their personal definition of love is in a romantic context. What does that mean to you, Sanaiyah?
Wow, such a important and deep question. For me, love is complete acceptance. Complete acceptance.
Mm,
Okay. Of yourself, of somebody else, of the situation, okay? Of your contribution, of who you are. That's love.
wow, that feels so liberating because we can tend to, in as well, not accept, and it's a constant battle. And we know what that battle feels like. It feels like a constant fight. When we are constantly fighting, it feels like we're constantly trying to survive.
Yes.
But if you just allow yourself to be and to accept. Now, acceptance doesn't mean that you are, it's not a sign of weakness. It doesn't mean that you're just letting things go.
No,
So
it's not
what?
complacency.
Yes.
Not complacency. It's not giving up. It's not giving in, right? It's just, it is what it is. It's complete acceptance. Okay. So it's freedom. It's freedom of judgment. It's freedom from, other people's opinions. It's just freedom and acceptance,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Of who you are and how things are.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So, so deep as well. And I know that when I'm working with my clients, in order to get to that place of acceptance, there's some forgiveness work to be done along the way, self-forgiveness, forgiveness of others.
Inner
You know,
child work, emotional wounds. There's a lot of work to do to get there.
yeah,
But, taking the first step of just having the awareness
yeah,
of what's going on in your own space, and
yeah.
then deciding to take ownership, accountability, being responsible, right?
Mm.
Instead of projecting or blaming somebody else for it. I mean, that will get you really far. Just that will get you really far.
It will do. So beautiful tonight. I absolutely love your personal definition of love there. Now, I think you've already done it, but usually, as a closing tradition of my show, I would ask my guests to leave our audience with one key takeaway to help them along their journey of love, well-being, and relationships. I felt like you just said that when it came to one of your key
Yes.
lessons. But if there's another one that you would like to leave, then here's an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I mean, for me, love is the most powerful force in the world. Love can drive you. A mother who loves their child will do anything to protect their child. When you go into your career, let's say your purpose with love, I mean, you can achieve the impossible. When you come into a relationship with love, you create this beautiful space for you and your partner. So love is just, it's just such a powerful driving force. And I want to invite your listeners to kind of come back to that, to come back to love, self-love, loving others, living your life from a place of love instead of fear. Just want this to just be a reminder of how important love is.
So this has been such a loving, nourishing conversation. And I want to thank you so much for all of the wisdom, all of the guidance, the personal experiences that you have shared to in this discussion today. It really has been very life-giving. And for those who have attracted this episode into your life as well, that's a great honor to have you here on the show. Now, for people who would love to connect with you, where can they find you? Where are you hanging out? Have you got any events coming up at all?
Yes, thank you so much, Teresha. So you can find me on all social media channels. That's at Sanaiyah Gurnamal. It's the same handle everywhere. My website is www.sanaiyahgurnamal.com. And if you want the Love Blocks quiz, it's /love-blocks-quiz. And also, if you want to talk to me about your blocks, if you want to kind of get my input on where it's coming from, what you need to work on, you can definitely book a relationship clarity call with me. It's just www.relationshipclaritycall.com. So please connect, drop me a DM. I would love to hear, what you thought of this episode. And I also want to really thank you, Teresha. Your questions were what made this conversation just really go where it went. It's just such a beautiful space you've created, and I want to really appreciate you for that.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. I received that with gratitude. Thank you so much, Sanaiyah. It's been an honor and a privilege. And I'm going to drop all of your details into the show notes as well, so they'll be clickable, so people are able to reach you easily. And again, I want to thank you for your time, for your energy today. Thank you so much again. And for everybody who has listened to this nourishing conversation, I want to thank you for your time, for your attention, and for your energy. And until the next episode, take great care of yourself and others too.